But talking about musical, and firsts, and tunes always mean something to certain people, and yeah, first times. Oh boy, I remember my first time. Oh, she went. Oh, I'm sorry. First, right here, Knights of the Round Turntable.
All kinds of pain, but don't you let nobody tell you it's all the same. You can tell.
Everybody had a good couple weeks.
Yeah.
Yes.
Down to New Orleans. Some live music.
Oh, New Orleans. Someday, I got to see Fats play. What about you? You ever been down there?
One time.
You were down there one time. Was it during Marty or after Marty?
It was after.
Smart man. Any tales you could tell?
No.
All right. Here's the fun part, though. Okay. Yesterday was a special thing that happened yesterday. March 31st, 1949. The very first 45 came out. Oh, thank God the very first 45s came out. And with that, we've got, that's right, I was going to say, Doug pulled from his den of vinyl iniquity. Why don't you tell everybody what goodies you got there? Oh boy.
Okay. I will preface it by this. The first record album to come out is Mendelssohn. RCA tried to come up with a record album back in the 1930s, about 1933, 35. They failed. The playback kits were too heavy, just ate up the vinyl and whatever. So later, in the 1940s, Columbia Records tried it again, and they succeeded. This is the first one. This is the first record album, which is very difficult to find, and if you do find it, it will usually be beat up because the heads are so heavy. Anyway, that was in 1948. In 1949, to counteract that, RCA came out with the 45. And at this time, they had what was called the roll-away display. This consisted of the first RCA 45 player. RCA and Columbia both had to develop their own players for their own format. And in stores, you had a display of the first 45 player with multicolored 45s circling above. And you had a stack of the first 45s playing, including this one, which is the Holloway demonstration record. And it tells about the different records floating above. Black vinyl was for pop music, green vinyl, country music, orange was blues and rhythm, yellow was children's records, ruby red is classical, and on and on. So anyway, this 45...
It's essentially the first sample.
Yes.
It's a sampler. It's the first sampler.
Right. It's the first demo record. Now...
First promo copy.
Pretty much. That's cool.
Exactly. And the first record, the first 45, we have right here. Now, while Columbia they catered more to the classical individuals, those who listen to classical music, because you could fit more onto an album, hence the classical pieces. 45s were promoted to the younger generation for rock and roll, things of this nature. However, this record, number 0001, is not rock and roll. It's country. It's Eddie Arnold, Texarkana Baby, and Bouquet of Roses. So the first 45, the first ever 45, did not cater specifically to the youth. It catered, well, to country music.
Do you think, because at that time anyway, I mean, kids didn't have money to buy the machines and stuff like that, so I'm guessing, they figure, country at that time, it really was a great denominator. It was like one of the lowest common denominators. Not insulting, but just saying. I mean, back then, that was the flavor. You think it's that?
I mean, I think it could have been so that the parents would buy the machine and then the kids would be like, oh, look, they have ones for me, so I should buy them too.
Well, see, the thing is, kids grew up in their parents' homes and they had to listen to their parents' music, which was often classical and things of this nature. With the 45 and the new single players, the teenagers of the day, they had their own music, they had their own player, they didn't have to rely on mom and dad.
And it was smaller, so it was less expensive, and it was easier for teenagers and 20-somethings to get their hands on.
That's right.
Take them anywhere and everywhere.
Yeah. The 45 was more suited to rock and roll because that's the time rock and roll came out, basically. 1950, 51, and I have the first, what many consider to be the first rock and roll record. I'll have to bring that one other show. But while the kids played their 45s, mom and dad could still play their classical LPs.
The very first iPod.
What's that?
MP3 player.
Yes.
It was essentially an MP3 player. They were just small records.
All right.
But they sounded better.
But now I remember having a turntable. I think you showed a picture on your Facebook once. On your record player, put about, what was it, five or six on the spindle, and with that little arm, and then when the one, ding, it would drop another one. And I don't know how many that could actually get away with before you'd really start screwing up that tone arm. But I remember when I was a kid having one of those.
And that was our first playlist.
Oh man! So I mean, that's cool though. I mean, like I said, that is your first piece of portability, and 65 years ago, they were genius. Who would have thunk that it was going to carry as much as it did? Because I know you and I were talking about this. One of these days we ought to bring some of the 78s too. So the younger, the 40 and under, they're going to go, huh? What the hell is that? But I mean, those things. I mean, my kid actually, John, was asking me. He was asking me. He goes, "What the heck?" I had to pull one of my 78s out today actually before I came here, and I'm like, "This is what they used to play." My mom and my grandma, used to play these things. You drop it, you're screwed.
Yeah.
But these things here, well, okay, fine. You can still probably screw it up, but it'd take at least a couple maybe beatings.
It's not going to shatter.
Yeah.
And speaking of shattering, one might inquire as to why the speed of 45.
Yeah.
Very simple. The standard at the time was 78s. 78 RPM. Columbia came out with the 33. So RCA in their brilliance simply subtracted 33 from 78, equating to 45. And that's how we end up with the 45.
That's funny. Yeah, I didn't know that. Seriously, I didn't.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. I'd never done that math.
But I mean, I just think it's really funny. I was reading an article not too long ago about them, and even though they got put out in '49, it sure didn't take too long. I think they said, what was it, by like 56? the sales just like flew out the door. I mean, what?
It's all about making music more accessible, getting it into more people's hands, and them being able to choose what they listen to at home instead of having to listen to what they're listening to on the radio.
Well, not only that, but you had performers. You had Elvis Presley. You had Little Richard. You had all these different type of artists who, at the time, in the world that we had at that time, was considered basically vulgar with their movements and things like this. So the parents would not allow that type of music to be played in the house. So the kids buy the 45 of Elvis, Little Richard, or whatever, play it on their own player.
Yeah, go in their room, close the door.
Close the door.
Well, I pulled up briefly since we were talking about firsts. Excuse me a second. Even though some of this is common knowledge, obviously for some of us, I thought I'd go off and pull, and sometimes these websites don't necessarily have the answers, but I pulled up Wikipedia, Answers.com, and went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame website, just for a couple of these bits anyway, okay? Rock and roll first. You briefly touched on this earlier in the show here. First rock record. Now I know there's all this debate and all this, okay? But, and like I said, I don't know which site, I'm sorry, it was all three of them I looked at. Rocket 88, Jackie Brenston and the Delta Cats, March of 51, who were actually...
Ike Turner.
This would be the hint I'd give you. You screwed up, Tina. Oh, don't sue me, Tina. I'm kidding.
It was Ike Turner and his band, and but Jackie was the singer.
On chess, but recorded in the lovely, lovely musical Nirvana Sun Studios in Memphis. Yes, yes, yes. All right, first rock and roll band, technically. Yes, it says here, this is kind of funny. They go off and go, once again, Jackie Brenston would be the first. But who was the first band to successfully sell the rock and roll music?
I would say probably Bill Haley.
Ding, you get a gold star if I had one. Bill Haley in the comments were the first band to successfully sell their rock and roll music. First rock and roll concert. I know you're going to get this one, but first rock and roll concert.
I would say Elvis.
Technically, according to Rock and Roll Hall of Fame website, we talked about this a few weeks back. The Moondog Coronation Ball in Cleveland, Ohio at the Cleveland Arena. March 21st, 1952 was organized by famous DJ Alan Freed, Mr. Payola. You know what payola is, right? We're going to talk about that in a second too. We might as well. What the heck?
Pay to play.
Right. There you go. Pay to play. It was a big common practice back in the 50s, 60s, and well, they're still doing it today, but it's different.
And I have a 45. I should have brought it. The name of it is Payola. The artist, Ben Took, and the Investos.
That's funny. They make a song about something that they probably had to do to get this around. It said here, though, I thought this was kind of funny, organized by Alan Freed. 20,000 fans tried to cram into a slightly more than 10,000-seat Cleveland Arena. I mean, you're talking 52 here, and there was that many people going to this thing. It said fire marshals shut the show after one song from the opening act, Paul Hucklebuck Williams. Freed made public apology next day on the station he worked at, WJW.
That's awesome.
All right, who's the first rock star?
Either Elvis Presley or Chuck. Yeah.
You got it. Elvis Presley. All right, first rock album ever to be released. You were close in your last conversation.
First rock album.
To ever be released, according to, like I said, these
Are we
sites.
talking about the first rock and roll soundtrack or the first rock and roll?
50s album, not a soundtrack.
Not soundtrack.
So yeah, that's right. First rock album ever to be released.
Bill Haley.
Very good. Shake, Rattle, and Roll, 1955 on Decca. Now, what were you going to do? I remember you were talking about something the other day about soundtracks and things.
Okay. The first rock and roll movie soundtrack. Rock, Rock, Rock. 1956, I believe. and the first record album for Chess Records. And at some point, at some point of the show, I'll bring in a copy of that.
That'd be sweet. Now, I thought this was kind of funny since we were talking a little bit about this anyway. Rock and roll, the term of that was originally used. This I thought was funny by mariners in the 17th century about ships rocking and rolling in the ocean. The first song to use those words together. If you had this in your collection, I'd almost want to hear this. 1922, blues singer Trixie Smith recorded "My Man Rocks Me" with one steady roll.
And actually, that's where Alan Freed coined the phrase rock and roll was from that song.
Yeah.
And because, how do I put this? Rock and roll was a term the teenagers used when they were close in the car
Right.
together.
Right. Let's rock and roll.
In the back seat of their '60 Chevy. Never mind.
Yeah.
Sorry, Bob. All right. You know what? This is just too dang cool. What is A? You got a Life magazine. I know we're jumping ahead here, but
Well,
let's take a look, see at this, because once again, though, even though it's not the first festival, it's the first massive recognized festival. Because Monterey was small compared to this.
the original Life magazine Woodstock Music Festival edition
It's too good.
sold for $1.25 back in the day. Massive concert.
You know, I have to thank my mom for 2 seconds. She sent me as a birthday gift last year. And it was numbered. They only made, I think I told you about this, but it was the deluxe 4 DVD. I mean, there were so many uncut performances put back into this collector's thing. I cannot wait to continue to watch the rest of this. All right.
Something that's, I mean, music festivals really became a pretty important part of the music industry after that. I mean, nowadays they're like, I mean, that's the main way bands make money is to going around and touring and doing festivals.
Well, yeah,
I mean, unfortunately, I guess. I mean, you'd like to think they can make money by selling their music, but these days it's easier to make a living performing than just writing and releasing. Unless you can get on soundtracks and things like that.
I mean, the way the economy is nowadays, a lot of these bands can't do full-blown scale tours.
Right.
That'll be another time we'll talk about on that too. But I mean, Woodstock, back then, it worked. It was meant to work.
Mass exposure of music in a good, inviting setting, I guess. There's all these kids that have never listened to some of these bands before, but they're at a music festival, they listen to them, they fall in love with them, they listen to them, I mean, it's a way to expose your music, I guess.
And the thing is, kids came from all over the country for that festival.
Right.
I mean, because that was actually the last good feeling festival there really was, because you're looking at 4 months later, Altamont. Look what happened there. That was a total disaster. All right, to go from some
talking about
old,
touring and trying to make a living playing music, I guess.
Yes.
I brought Real Estate's new album, Atlas, released on Domino Records. He just released this album, and the lead singer of this band, Martin Courtney, he is actually going to have a kid soon. And so this album is kind of his testing the waters to see if he wants to make music and writing and releasing music and touring his career, or if he's going to have to get a real job. So I went out and bought this album immediately when it was released because I like his music and I want him to keep making it. I think it's really important to still buy some form of music. You can download, stream music, whatever these days, but there's just something about owning it on vinyl and having a physical copy with a gatefold cover, and it's It's good stuff.
I
This
hope
is the
he gets to
real
keep
stuff.
doing it.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it's great music. It's good, soft rock and roll. There's not a lot of people that can do it like he does, anyways. So
Ooh, now, I love the cover of this next one.
this one is Madlib Shades of Blue. Let's see. Madlib is a beat conductor. He takes old music and puts it together to make different hip hop beats. He puts different drums to them and gives it more of a beat. But he took a bunch of old songs from the Blue Note catalog and remade them, kind of reinvented them. And on the record, actually, he's got like Lou Donaldson and other people kind of giving him their seal of approval, saying that, you know, fellow Scorpion Madlib. So just that he went out of his way to get kind of their approval and their, you know, recognition is good, and that they liked it and would endorse it, I guess, is a good thing as well. It's a really great album, though. I found this the other day and was really excited about it.
Sweet. See, I like the whole mixing of things if it's done right. What's the one? Maybe you can help me out on this. The guy took some of the Beatles and did a mashup. That was a couple of years back. I remembered. I heard bits and pieces of it. Well, it wasn't. Was it Modest Mouse? Maybe I'm getting this wrong. I
don't think there's tons of people that I mean, the Beatles, I guess. I'm sure that there's a guy that goes by the name of Girl Talk that does crazy mashups. Some of them he'll combine like 90s rock with, you know, today's rap music, and he does crazy different combinations. But I'm sure he
I've
doesn't.
heard that name, Grant. I don't know why. Let me bring up something you brought up to me last week, or brought up to both of us last week. We'll name drop for a second. Who was the guy that you were playing that album from again?
Oh, Mac DeMarco.
He was in Rolling
also-
Stone this week.
Really?
I saw the review.
That's
it said 3.5 stars.
Oh, really?
3.5 stars.
Well, they don't know what they're doing.
They may not know what they're doing, but still.
They don't get it.
Well, you know, that's the thing, though. I mean, with Rolling Stone,
Right.
and
Any sort of critic, I don't know.
you know, and that's kind of funny.
I think they take him too seriously. He's almost like he knows. I don't know. It's almost a joke in some manners. I mean, the first record that he recorded literally was a joke. He was sick and had a real like low and raspy voice, and he and his buddy were like, let's record some songs with this like funny rock and roll nightclub, you know, like this funny voice, and people loved it. People thought it was great, and it's just so he decided to keep doing it. So I mean, I guess you have to take his music with a grain of salt. But I mean, his music it's really chilled, laid back, but it's heavily influenced by, I feel like, earlier R&B. I don't know. He's got all kinds of different aspects in his music. It's good stuff.
See, but
Check him
that's-
out, Mac DeMarco.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm going to start getting some of his stuff because I liked what I heard, you know, the other day. You know, that's what you know, with the whole exposure of getting the new music to continually. It's kind of funny because if you want to think about it, nothing is entirely original.
Right.
I mean, it just continues.
Right.
We talked about
music
this in
has
the last
patterns, and you can only use the same amount of patterns so many times to make different types of music. We've pretty much exhausted the patterns in music. I mean, I don't know.
Well,
in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, there is only so many notes till some space alien comes down and drops some more.
Right.
Did I say that? Never mind. Now I got the conspiracy people after me now. Okay. So here's the thing. It's kind of funny, you know. We talked about Rolling Stone. I wanna bring up a segue about that for 2 seconds here. This here pretty much is going to be talked about more into next episode. All right, guys. But I thought I'd throw out here. Coming up in a couple weeks, and this is what I think is funny about it. Rolling Stone is a major contributor on the board of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I didn't truthfully realize how big of a presence that they had until the controversy that I'll bring up in a second. But I want to bring up the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. This is the inductee list for in a couple weeks in Cleveland. I think it's Cleveland, or maybe it's New York. I'm not sure. Peter Gabriel. Okay. I mean, you like Peter Gabriel? Old Genesis, even. I love Old Genesis and Peter. Hall & Oates. Hall & Oates. I don't entirely know what to think about that. I
saw one
like
of them
him.
play in Telluride, Colorado. I don't remember which one it was, but I saw one of Hall or
I'll
Oates.
give you a hint. Did he have a mustache or a
believe so.
goatee?
I believe
Then you
it was
saw
the
Oates.
mustache.
You
Okay.
saw, I saw Oates too. That's what.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Cool.
And the thing is, though, he plays blues.
Yeah.
Oates plays blues when he's not playing with Hall and Oates. I'm like,
Bluegrass Festival, so.
Doug, get that book out. This one was, God, the controversy. That's right, Kiss. Yeah, Kiss. Here comes the bad Gene Simmons impression. Kiss. They took them long enough. With these guys, I'll touch on this briefly. Talk about politics. Oh my God. The band is getting yelled at by a lot of people on the internet because they decided they were not going to perform. A lot of these bands perform.
Right.
They're not going to perform.
If they get inducted, you mean?
Right. They're not going to perform, and it was Gene that pulled this out, and a lot of people bitched.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
I waited though.
I mean, if they're gonna, if like your favorite rock and roll band's gonna get inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I kind of want to maybe see them play a rock and roll song.
Right, you'd think so. The problem is though, and Paul and Gene actually, came out of this. At first, it was kind of cool because Peter was being mature about it. Ace was being Ace. Seems like slightly bitchy. Sorry, Ace, I love you anyway. But Gene and Paul went off, and they finally admitted after a while, though, they pulled the curtain back on this whole process and said, well, the reason why we're not performing is because we wanted everybody from the band in.
Right.
And the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame went,
Yeah.
Which, and I bring this up because it's a little bit hypocrisy. Grateful Dead, when they got in, what was, Rolling Stone magazine, who'd they love in the 60s and early 70s? For music. Seriously, where did it come out of? San Fran,
Right.
hippies.
West Coast.
All of those bands were pretty much tied on the Rolling Stones' finger.
Right.
And believe it or not, all the Grateful Dead knew the old school Rolling Stone people.
Right.
And so when the Hall of Fame went to, because Cherry was dead already, but went to Phil Lesh and Bob Weir, and they're like, okay, who you want in? Everybody. Paul says, okay. I'm like,
Right.
okay. So that's going to be the big to-do, so that's why they're not performing. Nirvana,
I mean, I like Nirvana quite a bit.
yeah, I do too, but I'm like,
I've got a lot of respect for those guys. I mean, I'll even admit that like the Foo Fighters is good. Like even after Nirvana, like those guys.
I saw that, Randy. Randy, the cameraman's going,
I mean, the best, but like not really.
Here comes the comment that's going to get me in hot water. If it wasn't for Kurt Cobain being murdered, we wouldn't have Foo Fighters.
Right. I mean, I'd be all right with that.
Everybody's going to be like, yeah.
Right.
Linda Ronstadt. What timing? What timing, though, if you think
I
about
like
it?
to think of her in those little shorts and the roller shoes. That's
I remember
that's
my
Linda
first
Ronstadt.
time. No, that wasn't it. I wish my first time was Linda Ronstadt. You too. Ooh, did you ever see the cover to Silk Purse when she's in the pig pen and she's in the Daisy? Anywho,
So if it's like I don't know.
I just can't remember if that was before or after her announcing the Parkinson's. I'd have to almost dig up to
Right.
see if Rolling Stone went off and they're like, uh-oh,
Right.
we'll put her in now because it makes me wonder. And then
But
lastly,
I remember those things, the shorts and those roller shoes more than I remember her music.
Doug and I were talking about FM, the movie FM, where she
FM.
shows up.
Yeah.
1978. Good movie if you can find it.
Lastly, Cat Stevens. Cat Stevens.
Right.
Yeah. And then, believe it or not, I didn't know this until I started pulling this up. There is other awards that are attached to the ceremony. They call them, another one is the I don't know how to pronounce this probably, Erdogan Awards. That was the guy who created, yeah, tell him.
Atlantic Records.
Right.
He founded Atlantic.
Cool.
Brian Epstein, finally getting into the Hall of Fame. Gee, that took forever. And then, I know you'll know this one. Andrew Loog Oldham. That kind of threw me for a loop a little bit that he got himself in there. You know who that is.
Rolling Stones.
If it wasn't for him, you wouldn't get that. You're right, you wouldn't get that Stone sound.
I have an album by the Andrew Loog Oldham Orchestra.
Oh boy.
How that equates to Rolling Stones.
It's all Muzak pieces of Stones tunes. I don't know if I'd want to hear a Muzak, She's the Rainbow, or and then lastly, I don't quite, Award for Musical Excellence. E Street Band. You either love Bruce or you hate Bruce. But his band kicks ass, I'll tell you that. They were born to run. So next week, or next episode, excuse me.
Right.
We'll talk about the hall a little bit more and some other fun goodies. But until then,
First
first episode.
April
First
1st.
episode. Yeah, I know. People are going to think this is a big joke. Well, the only joke is this guy here. But you
Keep
know
him
what?
around though.
Yeah, so do my children. Me. But you know what? If it wasn't for these two, and this, and this guy here, he's a kick-ass behind the camera there. He is. Did a great job
thinks
last
we're
time.
funny.
Yeah, he's laughing through most of it, especially that Foo Fighter. There's nothing wrong with the Foo. All right. So until next episode, for the moment, semi-live here at Iron Horse in Rogers. Now all the groupies are going to come. April's Fools. See you guys next episode from
Grant Alden.
Bud Fields.
and the groupie-less ball peas. Take care.